This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. John, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you having me.
Faster, smarter, more connected. I mean, it starts out with maybe one vertical or a particular aspect of a particular vertical, health IT or wherever it is, fintech, and then all of a sudden it becomes pervasive. Certainly with now the Internet of Things and the cloud, everything is going to be faster and everything is going to be smarter and everything's got to be more connected. The real challenge, and I think the one that I think our listeners will find interesting, is the one I think you guys face every day. And that's the whole aspect of an automated workflows. So let's talk a little bit about that, the transformation of the way people work, and give us a little insight about intelligent automated workflows.
Yeah. So thanks, Frank. The world's going through an interesting transformation. I think when you go back to when some of us who have been around for a while went to work every day, we kind of expected things to be difficult, meaning those systems that we worked in every day. Today, with the new generation of the workforce and even those folks that do spend a lot of time within systems, there's a real desire to have a consumer-like experience. So sort of take a step back and think of what Uber did to the taxi industry, or what Amazon has done to the retail industry, and we're seeing that type of demand occur today within the business world or the enterprise, and so ServiceNow is a cloud-based company that basically automates the delivery of those types of services within an enterprise. So if you think about it like this, I'll give you sort of a very simplistic example. I mean, everything today that we do, regardless, is a service. There's someone or something that's asking for someone or something, and on the other end, there's someone or something that is providing that. And in between, there's some sort of decision tree or workflow that ultimately decides on how that service gets delivered. And it tends to be a very repeatable process, and it tends to be very manual in nature, whether it be emails, whether it be spreadsheets. I mean, you name it. It tends to be riddled with inconsistencies and quite frankly, a lot of errors.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, obviously we're kind of stepping into this whole concept of automation and the impact it has on overall workforce and obviously even productivity. And I mentioned earlier about speed and I think in part a lot of what you guys talk about is business at the speed of light, or change happening at the speed of light. We jokingly say here everything is so 20 minutes ago. No matter what you're talking about, it's already changed by the time you're complaining. But I guess where I'm headed is that in that environment, where do we fit in? And I'm not challenging from an artificial intelligence standpoint on a pure robotics play, but obviously we're talking about, in this particular case, an automated process that fundamentally speeds everything up by, quote unquote, eliminating people. How does that work? How does the environment, adjust to the relationship building and the human touch point?
Yeah, you talked about working at light speed. It happens to be our new tagline, but I like to go back to sort of what we said last year, and we're changing the way that people work, right? And I mean, if you think about the automation of these processes, in the end, what we're actually going to do is deliver a much better experience back to the ultimate end user. And today the reality is, we're not going to be replaced by artificial intelligence and predictive analytics or analysis. But, I think there's an opportunity for organizations to drive efficiency by leveraging these types of automation tools, and then ultimately we'll get to the point where the predictive analytics and artificial intelligence do kick in. And is it about eliminating jobs? I don't know if that's the case at all. I think it's going to be about changing the roles that individuals play within the organization, right? And instead of sitting in front of your desk and moving one thing from the inbox to the outbox, if you will, you get to be much more high value within the enterprise.
Okay, take us beyond the obvious, and that's the IT, into other functions. Is the ecosystem growing in this particular environment?
Yeah, the IT environment happens to be where sort of we built our brand, and we're really proud of that. Our experience is really around the platform, and that platform is a consolidated application that goes well beyond IT. I think there's still a tremendous opportunity for us today in IT, and we're really not even scratching the surface when you think about the addressable market. But when you look at some of the other real impactful areas that are just clamoring for automation, customer service definitely comes to mind, and we're all consumers of customer service in one shape or fashion. And as we talked earlier, Frank, about sort of that metamorphosis or transformation that the market is going through from an enterprise systems perspective, customer service is going through that same sort of transformation, in that we as individuals, those being consumers of customer service, are demanding an experience not like we're traditionally used to, where we have a problem and we cringe to pick up the phone and call the cable company, right? I want to be able to get I want information right now. I want to get the answers to my question, and I want my problem solved, and I want to be able to do it the way that I want to do it, whether that be picking up the phone, whether that be going to chat or going to a knowledge base, or for some people it still means going into the store. And we've got to be able to provide those types of options back to the user. But even more importantly, traditionally the way that most organizations have approached this is, let's figure out a way to drive the amount of time that our agents spend on the phone down. Right? Let's instead of having them on the phone for 19 seconds, let's have them on the phone for 16 seconds. And what we really need to be focused on is driving the number of calls completely away, which ultimately drives loyalty up. And you do that by solving problems before your customers know about them. And that's a huge opportunity, we believe, in the market.
Well, obviously, we all talk about and experience legacy-type systems, and the impact of technology turnover is making the kinds of changes that we were talking about, disruption. Again, one of the things we talk about here is that semantics can't keep up with the technological turnover to be able to even discuss something like a cloud or a network or a channel, or some of the older names now that have become ubiquitous, but in the earlier stages of it was almost a challenge to try to describe in words that everybody understood exactly what the problem was or what the solution was. I guess where I'm headed is that in an environment the way that we're talking about, when you've got, again, the speed and the efficiency, does it require a cultural adaptation in terms of the internal corporate culture of the organization? I'm going to assume that when you guys get engaged, you do the range of the entire spectrum of people that are relatively sophisticated and can use some of the things that you bring to the table, and then others that are really not even close to understanding how challenging the competitive marketplace is without operating with these kind of automated systems and capabilities. So I guess really where I'm headed is, how challenging is the embracing of it when you move this strongly into an environment and make the kind of dramatic changes that you're talking about? At least from the standpoint, dramatic from the standpoint of the people that haven't dealt with it before.
Sure, and you're going to love my answer when I say it depends, right? It's a typical answer, and it does. It depends based on the maturity, if you will, and maybe that's not the best word, but the willingness of the organization to move themselves into the current times. Now, we deal with plenty of customers that try to take a broken or cruddy process and automate it, and in the end, you have a broken or a cruddy process that's automated, and that's not what we're trying to do. And it's really important for us when we're talking to our customers to really understand what their desired outcome is and what's the ultimate business issue that they're trying to address. And I would say a couple of years ago, the conversations were a lot different than we're having today, where I think the enterprises that we're dealing with are a lot more candid about the fact that, hey, listen, we do have a lot of inefficiencies, and we believe today that we're mature enough as an organization to take a step back and say, maybe that's not the best way to do it, and let's think about the way to do it today and tomorrow, not about the way we did it yesterday, which will drive efficiencies. But it's not that easy. I'll be very candid with you. But the key for us is, and any organization, is to really get the employees bought in and energized about the outcome and where they're going, because in the end, it's going to make their daily life a lot more similar to their personal life. When you think about Facebook or LinkedIn, right? We think about Facebook as that type of application where people they're in every day for their personal life, and LinkedIn has sort of changed the game from a networking perspective in our professional life, and we like to think of ServiceNow as the place where people go to get work done.
Well, talk a little bit about competitive advantages and unique selling propositions at this stage in the evolution of the specialty, and I think it is a specialty, wouldn't you agree, that you guys are into, because you're taking the best of the things that you've experienced and done traditionally, but you're adding this new dynamic to it and combining it to the now, into the moment, as far as the need for this kind of speed, the need for this kind of automation. Is there a secret sauce? Is there something that you guys are doing that is unique to you, that's different than the competitors might be offering?
Well, I can't tell you about our secret sauce. That would get me in trouble. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Listen, I think Frank. It's been our approach to the market since day one, right? We were built for the cloud, in the cloud, and for a lot of individuals that that means that we host the application. There's no requirement for our customers to have any physical hardware or software on site. They can get everything done through a web browser. But it really is the platform that is the key to our success. And what that means is, and platform is a word that tends to get used a lot, but isn't necessarily a reality. When we built the platform, we kind of went out and field tested it with a couple of our old colleagues and walked in, and I said, "Hey, Frank, I got this platform. You want to buy it?" And you looked at me and said, "Well, John, what does it do?" And I said, "Well, what do you want it to do?" And in the end, that's not a great sales strategy for anybody that's in sales. So you've got to create an application, and our first application was in the IT service management space, which is where our roots were. Mm-hmm. But, the long-term vision, Frank, and really the secret sauce is the extensibility of that platform, and to build every application and every workflow and every SLA and all of the data to be in one platform and be the system of record for most things and the system of engagement for others, because in today's world, data is king, and those who have it and those who really know how to do something with it are the ones that are really going to win. And that's really the power of the platform. And there's nobody else out there that's doing what we're doing or has the ability to today. Is that to say that we're going to be the only one forever? Of course not. But we've been doing it a long time, and we've got a ton of opportunity in front of us.
Well, I bet you do. And one of the things that happens a lot, we're constantly talking to I guess sales and marketing is about as simple as it's going to get down to it, but the marketing side in terms of some of these products and services, rather than, quote unquote, the buyer side. And where I'm headed is that so many times, John, you talk to first generation entrepreneurs, and they don't have enough time or enough exposure to realize the latest or the greatest advancement. So in many cases, they're not necessarily outsourcing. They're pretty much busy in their day-to-day work and don't even know some kind of a solution exists. How do you get the word out when you're not only talking about a service and you're talking about a brand in terms of the name of your company and breaking through that noise clutter, but to be talking about something that they may or may not even know? What comes to mind is the old Steve Jobs thing about people don't know what they want until they see it.
Yeah, there's a couple of different avenues that we rely heavily on, and ServiceNow by any stretch of the imagination is not a household name. We've got a whole branding campaign that's going on, but most importantly, we host a user conference every year. This year it happens to be down in Orlando on May 7th through the 11th, and to put things into perspective, there'll be 15,000 people there. Wow. Over the course of those 4 days, and I think what's really unique about it, Frank, is that 85 to 90% of the content that is delivered by our customers. So think about that. This is an event that we host so our customers can share the great things that they're doing on our platform and the outcomes and the business issues that are being delivered and solved by leveraging the platform. So, it's sort of, you tell two friends and they tell two friends and they tell two friends. It's worked pretty well. We're the fastest growing, $1 billion plus software company. We have a $15 billion market cap, so something's working there, but we've got a tremendous future.
Well, and truthfully, when I was talking about the fact of branding and people don't know what they need, it wasn't so much about ServiceNow specifically as it was just the whole concept of the speed of technology. And I mean, just thinking, and you live it every day, John, but how quickly just something that, virtual reality been around for a long time. Cloud arguably has been around for a long time. Maybe high-speed connectivity and the reach of that connectivity is a little bit more improved than it's ever been. But the bottom line of it is that it's a case where it's almost like how do you stay in business? How do you sustain yourself in a competitive environment where change is so dramatic, disruptive, as we constantly say, and try to keep up with these things? And that was the point I was making before, and that is, when you talk about how do you, and when I was bringing up how do they know about you, I didn't mean how do they know about ServiceNow specifically, but rather how do they know that they even have a situation where you can deal with an automated workforce, a workflow, the way that you guys are talking about constructing it. So
yeah, I'll just real quick say I'm a firm believer and a big believer in networking and speaking with my peers, and frankly, as an individual that gets the opportunity to speak to customers every day, I ask them all the time, hey, what are you looking at that's cool, or what have you implemented that has really solved really, really true business issues? And there's a lot to read about, but I love to talk to people and get real stories about what's going on in the market, and I try to do it every day, try to learn something every day, just because, like you said, Frank, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't know that they can take a business problem and automate it and drive a ton of efficiencies back into the business and save millions of dollars. Happens every day.
And again, old school, you're sitting across the desk and the guy wants to know, how can you save me money or how can you make me money? And pretty soon he starts getting a head full, or she does, of IT and a lot of new applications and technologies that they may or may not be familiar with. It can be intimidating, but the reality of it is, sustainability. That's you'd like to have an environment that's more conducive to, say, for example, the consumer experience that you have at home. The other side of it is you want to make sure your business is going to be around next year and the year after. I think in this particular case, it's the kind of thing where you have to, I guess, but bottom line, invest in the inevitable. Let's talk a little bit about that for a couple of seconds, and that is, what does the future hold for this kind of stuff? I mean, where is it going?
Yeah, I think it's exciting, and you touched on it a little bit earlier around sort of the artificial intelligence, and I sort of said predictive analytics and added that in, and I think when you look at sort of the automation of these processes, I think what we're going to start to see a lot of the artificial intelligence come in to not only sort of take care and route problems to closure before there's any human interaction, but you take that a step further, and if whether you're an end user within an enterprise or an end user as a customer, if we can leverage that artificial intelligence and learn from historical events and know what's going to be asked before our customers ask those questions and solve those problems before they're sort of, quote, identified as a problem, you're going to start again to see customer loyalty and user loyalty go up, and in the end, that drives profitability for organizations. So there's a lot to be determined, and we are still pretty early stages in what we're seeing in the market. But I really see within the next couple of years we're going to start to see a high level of engagement with artificial intelligence and predictive analytics that will ultimately help drive some of the low value decision making out of a organization.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I mean, obviously, that I guess as you were talking, I was thinking also in terms of that it's the speed that we were talking about. It started out as what I think it was information, and then it went to data, and then it went to big data, then it went to prescriptive, and then presumptive. I can't even remember the different definitions of it as it rapidly went to the fact now that the data that we're talking about may or may not be used for marketing, or may or be used for your own customer service purposes, but it's also training and educating your systems, right? I mean, you've got systems that basically teach each other.
That's right. That's right. And I think that we can all go back and look at some of those movies that we watched when we were kids, and we kind of laughed about it. But I think you're going to really start to see that. I touched on it earlier. It's data is king, and those that use it the right way are going to be the ones that win. And that's where I think you definitely see a lot of the artificial intelligence.
Really exciting. I mean, the whole concept, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. I mean, even the systems I'm guessing that are pretty cutting edge that you guys are advocating today. You've got to stay on top of it because everything is evolving so quickly. I'm going to guess that it's probably, if someone wants to engage and learn more, obviously there's going to be a website involved, and hopefully you'll give us a URL. But before we close, and give us a little bit more input into the user conference. Is it Knowledge 17,
yep.
I think? Yeah. Give us a little bit more
exactly
about that. You mentioned it earlier, but repeat it and maybe give our listeners who should want to attend, and maybe a little bit about why.
Yeah, so Frank, our largest user conference that we put on yearly, there'll be 15,000 attendees. Like I said, 85 to 90% of the content is delivered by our existing customers. So if you're a customer or a prospect and you want to learn more, it's in Orlando, May 7th through the 11th. Go out to www.servicenow.com to learn more, and we'd love to see you there.
Well, it's a changing world, but one of the great parts is that everyone is adapting to the opportunities, and the opportunities are both exciting and unlimited, and what that ultimately means is extremely challenging and busy. And I can imagine, John, how busy you guys are, all the buzz and success that we hear about ServiceNow. Great work that you're doing, great things that are happening already, but certainly a future that's really, really exciting. Thanks a lot for taking a few minutes out of what I know is an extremely busy schedule to join us for a couple of minutes today on Tech Talk.
Frank, I enjoyed the time. Have a great day.